Free to Heal, Sustainable Health for a Climate Changing World is a process, a structure, a new paradigm of healthcare experience and delivery that I developed in response to the health consequences of climate change as a neuroscientist and someone who has specialized in the resolution of shock and trauma. I learned that true healing from devastating, overwhelming experience is best done in culturally sensitive and community-based environments. But as I've been developing this over the last 3 or 5 years, and it's evolved considerably, which means it's actually gotten more and more simple, I'm happy to say. I realized just the other day that this actually, I haven't shared this with anyone, this actually was born as a dream when I was a child. So as I've spoken of in various circumstances, because it's relevant to my work, I was born into a violent family, which is a really painful and difficult thing. I feel so blessed that I have evolved as much as I have from those origins, but I used to think of my home as a pigsty, as being inhabited by, now I probably think very highly of pigs actually, but at that time in the Bronx, that would be associated with something dirty and insensitive and completely without respect for others. Pigs are not like that, I'm sure. But that was the association as a child in the Bronx that I had. So those circumstances were unusual for an Orthodox Jewish family as far as I have come to know. There may be others who have had this experience, but it was shaped very much by my father's head injury and his experiences during World War II. But when I was little and there was so much violence, sexual violence, physical violence, verbal violence every day. So it was like living in a life-threatening environment every day. I had, thankfully, a very intense inner world. And by the grace of God, that inner world was extremely healthy. I was not, it was clearly compensation, but it wasn't mental illness. It wasn't schizophrenia. It was deep, imaginative visualizing. And I remember this all so clearly, and it all came back to me the other day as I was working on Free to Heal. The one scenario that I replayed over and over and over again, and that soothed me and comforted me so much, was a healing scenario. And there would be healers who would come and they would do very lovely singing, and they would fluff my pillows in my bed, and they would soothe my blankets, and they would comfort me, and they would tend to me, and they would talk to me, and they would be involved in my experience. These were things my family never did. They never fluffed my pillows, smoothed my bedclothes, or sang me songs. So I had these visualizations of these people who I identified, even in my little child mind, as healers. I thought of them as physicians. I would call them doctor this and doctor that. And I realized that these beings that I cultivated in my imaginary inner world were a community. And they were a community that was sensitive to me and very aware of my circumstances, and that were giving me the kind of contact and the kind of expressive opportunities that my poor parents, my poor family members, and we lived in close proximity in the same building, the same tenement building with my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunts. But all these people were so distracted by their experiences from the Holocaust, by their poverty, by the stress that they were under. My grandparents were illiterate. They were hardly able to survive in this strange world that they had come to. And they were so distracted by their suffering and their struggles that they didn't have the wherewithal really to relate to me. And of course, my mom and dad were just hateful and horrible to one another, and, you know, kind of acting out all of their unresolved issues. So this dream of a circle, and it literally was a circle that would surround me, I believe was the origins of my free to heal concept, which I've developed as a neuroscientist, which I've developed as an energy medicine practitioner, which I've developed as an educator and a trauma specialist. So it's got all this background and research that I can point to around it. But I just realized this the other day, and this is the first time I'm sharing it with anyone. So thank you for listening. And thank you, Ben, for thinking of recording it. So the actual structure of Free to Heal is that there is a collaborative community effort to understand the etiology of someone's physical or psychological holistic distress from their standpoint, and that understanding is culturally sensitive. So the person who's struggling with the issue, whether it be arthritis or there's a film I've created, it's 10 minutes long, and everyone who signs up for these programs will look at the film because it's a template of the process. And in that film, the individual who is the center of the healing process has rheumatoid arthritis. So generally, when someone has a diagnosed condition, all the talk is about the symptomology and about the ways in which this disease expresses itself according to the literature and according to the pharmaceuticals that would respond to it. But in the Free to Heal, the focus is on the individual's experience of that condition and their understanding of it in the context of how they live and of their family, which is what you see in the film. And the film was made in Aotearoa, and the woman who is the center of it is married to a Maori man and has grown up within Maori culture. And so her family is very involved, both her Pakeha and Maori family, so both are present. And the cultures of both sides of her family are integrated into the healing process. So that's another aspect of Free to Heal, is that cultural interventions are included, along with other what I call sustainable healthcare modalities. So these are modalities that have been clinically tested, as all the ones that I've developed have been clinically tested, but they also are eminently teachable. So they're available at all levels, and they can be transmitted easily, and they can also be used as self-care. So the process that you see in the film that we will replicate in the series, we will replicate this process of electing somebody, and that'll be a process we'll go through together to be in the center of the circle, and we'll form the community around that individual. We'll go through the process of listening, deep listening to their experience of the condition they want to address. We'll bring in the cultural resources that that person wants and feels a connection with, whether it be song or prayer or communication. And we will work together as a community to provide the opportunity for that person to have an experience of that level of holistic community-based healing. So that's what will happen in the series of 3 that are going to be provided through Now What, and these will be free, though we do request donations because I'm supporting the nonprofit organizations that are putting this forward. So donations are welcome, but not required. And then we'll actually go beyond that after Now What to an actual training where people can have the opportunity to start on the path of becoming sustainable health practitioners carrying this forward. And this is my vision for a new paradigm of healthcare and healthcare delivery in a climate changing world. Free to Heal, sustainable health for a climate changing world. And it's accompanied by something I've been building for several years now. It's still very much under construction, which is a cultural library of sustainable health resources, which is a digital library. It's been built, it exists, and it's being added to all the time, in which we store digitally these kinds of sustainable resources, like the cultural healing songs, the energy medicine interventions, the plant medicine, etc. So that is also part of Free to Heal.
Wow.
Thank you, Ben. I have not shared this with anyone. I'm very touched, to tell you the truth. I'm deeply touched by this opportunity. Thank you, Ben.